If a person, is Buddhist, you talk about Buddhism, yeah? If a person is Christian, you talk about Christianity. If they're Jewish or Muslim, you talk about those religions. So you put whatever you say in the context of the faith the person has. If a person has no religion, great, that's fine. You could just talk about loving kindness and forgiveness and rejoicing in ethical conduct and generosity and so on. Okay, so you talk the language of the person who's dying. If the family's a different religion, or maybe no religion at all, and the person is religion, then you talk the language of the family to the family, Okay, so let's not get stuck in specific vocabulary that we're attached to, but let's be able to communicate important principles in whatever language is suitable to communicate. What's really important if you're helping somebody die is to let go of your own agenda. And this is very difficult. And this is where all the conflict with the family comes in. Because everybody has their own agenda. I want them to die at home. I want them to die in a hospice. I want them to go to the hospital. Then they fight. Okay. I want them to have morphine. They're in pain. I don't want them to have morphine. Then the people quarrel. I want them to die peacefully. I need my relative to die peacefully. But they aren't peaceful. They're agitated. Well, I got to fix it and make them peaceful even though they're not peaceful. How are you going to do that? You come in with your agenda of I'm going to fix them. You are going to be peaceful when you die whether you like it or not. Because I need you to be peaceful. So I am not listening to any of your rubbish. I am shutting it out and I am imposing my stuff on you so that you can die peacefully. That's violent, isn't it? If somebody has junk to express, we have to listen to it. And you accept it, and you listen, and often just their feeling heard is sufficient for them to let it go. Because they may have been holding in things their whole entire life that they've never wanted to tell anybody. And finally, they're dying, they need to say it. Yeah, and if you just listen and say, oh, I understand, oh, I hear you, then they feel heard, or you repeat back to them what they said. They feel heard, they let go. Yeah, whereas if we have an agenda of you're not supposed to express any negative feelings because I need you to be peaceful, then, we're making it so difficult for everybody. Aren't we? Yeah. So, sometimes people think, oh, I need techniques to help people who are dying. Tell me what the techniques are, what I need to do. And I think the best thing we can bring a person who is ill or a person who is dying is just our presence. And our presence, the effect of our presence is going to depend on how we live, not on having techniques. Okay, but who we are as a person. Are we a person who can listen and accept? Or are we a person who has to fix everything and change everybody? Are we a person that has to have our way all the time? So this is the kind of thing that we bring with us that can often be a source of, real discomfort for the dying person as well as for the rest of the family and the friends. Okay? Whereas if we are working hard in our own practice and have some level of acceptance, then we can come in a completely different way. Okay, that doesn't mean we stuff our own grief, okay? But we also remember, this person is only a karmic bubble. They are not real. There's nothing for me to be attached to here, And instead of, you know what I think grief very often is, and what mourning is you're mourning for a future that's not going to happen. You know, we don't mourn for the past because it's over and done with. We're not mourning for the present because it's happening. What we mourn for is we had our expectation for the future. We had our checklist of how the future was supposed to be, and it's not going to happen. So we're mourning for something that doesn't exist. Isn't that strange? Isn't that strange when you think about it? We're not mourning for what is because we're losing what is. We're mourning because we're not going to have what never has happened. Okay? So to realize that and say, okay, you know, I had an expectation of how things were going to be, and that's not what's going to happen. But that's okay. I can be flexible. I can adjust. I can adapt. You know? And the future will be different, but I'm so fortunate for having known that person as I did in the past. And so you rejoice at the connection you had with them. Okay? You take that love that you've experienced with them, and then you go forward in your life and you share that love with whoever happens to be in front of you at the time. Okay? Instead of feeling I can only love that one person and now they're not here. Who says that? You know, we want to, you know, we're practicing the Mahayana path. We want to create love for everybody. So let's not limit, you know, who we love by what we tell ourselves, you know, by incorrect ways of thinking. Okay? You know, let the person who's dying tell you how much pain medication they want, or if they want pain medication. They'll know, so listen to them. And sometimes what's very helpful is to give them the ability to control their own pain medication. Yeah, so instead of them having to call you or call the nurse or ring the call bell in the hospital so somebody else can give the pain medication, make it so that they can just press the little button themselves whenever they feel they need it. Okay? Because then when they don't need it, they won't use it. And when they need it, then they'll use it. And then the person feels empowered. Because I think a lot of the things that a dying person has to deal with is feeling disempowered. You know, because other people are making their decisions for them. Now, of course, sometimes the mind isn't so clear. Other people have to make those decisions for you. Yeah, but sometimes if your mind is clear, you want to have a say in your own care. And so it's important to give the person who's sick that ability to say what kind of care they want. And it may not agree with what kind of care you want them to have and you think you should have. They should have, but that doesn't matter. You have to respect their wishes. Yeah, and I think this pertains to elderly parents too. I mean, I've been going through this with my folks, and you know, we want them to have one kind of care. They absolutely, positively refuse. And you know that the situation is an accident waiting to happen. And you accept it. Because they're making their choice of how they want to live their last days. And maybe they would rather live their last days, you know, feeling more empowered than live longer and feel disempowered. That is their personal choice. Yeah. So I think, you know, we can try and talk with them, but you have to leave that up to them. Of course, the issue I think that's really difficult is they're not driving, because that isn't an issue that just affects them. That can affect a lot of other people. Yeah, so there you might have to be more insistent and, you know, talk to the doctor, get the doctor to tell them that they can't drive. Yeah. we kids were so upset, you know, because my dad had had a hip surgery, and we thought, okay, now he's not going to be able to drive. And then the physical therapist told him he could drive. And we kids are going, this therapist, you know, what in the world are they saying? You know, it's so clear that he can't. So, you know, so it's good often to talk to the doctor, not in front of your parent, but, you know, and get the doctor to say it if they won't listen to you. Okay? And then, of course, when we get old and stubborn and people are telling us to stop driving, then we should maybe consider listening to them instead of being strong-willed and stubborn. Yeah. So you can understand how people feel, you know, as you lose the control of your body, you know. Some people can do it gracefully, some people can't. And I think this is part of our practice of preparing for death, is, you know, to imagine losing control of our body and having to accept other people's help. You know, and some people, they do, you know, have such a hard time with that. And yet, you know, we're going to, if we live that long, we're going to have to do that. So how can we accept other people's help gracefully in a way that makes them feel good? Okay, because other people want to help us. If we refuse their help, they can feel hurt. How can we let their helping us, which we need, be an opportunity for the sharing of affection instead of us making it into a big ego thing? Yeah? Okay? Because it's true. I mean, at some point, we may need people to change our diapers. Yeah, and we may need to get used to the fact that we need to wear them. This is another thing that's been going on in my family, you know. You know, my dad, in fact, it's this weekend, you know, is traveling to see the rest of the family, and he said, it's his first airplane ride for a long time, and he said, oh, and they're telling me I should wear these Depends on the flight. You know, they're crazy. And this is after him finally agreeing to use them, you know, at nighttime after him refusing for a long time. And I said, oh, Dad, but you know, sometimes it's a bumpy ride and the pilot doesn't want you to get up. Yeah, and you're stuck in your seat. Because I had just come from a flight where they did that to us, you know, and you can be stuck in your seat for 3 or 4 hours. So I think it's a good idea. He said, oh yeah, I didn't think of that. So, you know, that gave him kind of an out, you know. Especially if you say, oh, and I would actually want to wear some Depends in that situation myself if the pilot doesn't let us up. You know? So there's all kinds of ways that you can deal with these situations. Okay? But, you know, thinking ourselves, you know, how are we going to feel comfortable with other people dressing us, with other people cleaning us, with other people bathing us? You know? And how can we just relax and feel comfortable about that? And then how can we feel comfortable, you know, taking care of somebody? Yeah? And then to often see if you're the right person to take care of them. I mean, I really saw that when my mom was dying. She didn't ask for my brother and me to come. You know, she asked for my sister-in-law to come. Yeah, somehow it was easier for her. Also, I see with my dad, it's easier for him to have my sister-in-law, you know, help him with personal things than to have me help him. So I just know to step back, you know, let somebody else come in and do it. So it's just a thing of being sensitive to the situation and the other person's comfort level. You know, because some people want somebody they're close to help them with these personal things. For some people, having a stranger do it is much easier. So you have to see, if somebody's dying, what are you dealing with? Okay. Also, don't insist that you've got to be there when they die. Yeah, some people are very insistent about this. I am not going to leave the room because they're on the verge of death and I've got to be here. My nose is very itchy this morning. And if you talk to any nurses, they will tell you that most people die at night when nobody's there. Mm-hmm. Why? It is easier. It's easier. When you're dying, you don't want the family around you crying, holding your hand, pleading, arguing, doing who knows what. Either you want somebody doing spiritual practice and saying things to you that are going to guide your mind, or you just want silence. Yeah? And you don't want to have to deal with everybody else's emotion. So, be sensitive to that and don't insist that you have to be there. And don't feel like a failure if, you're exhausted because you've been at the hospital all day and you go home to rest and they die when you aren't there. That's not a failure. That's not an indication of your lack of love. It's very often a gift to the person because they can just die peacefully without a big scene around them. Okay? And I remember seeing that one of my students was dying some years ago, and I came to be with him. And it was actually, I arrived in the morning, the family, his partner, all sorts of people had been there during the night. I arrived, they all went home. That's when he died, just when I was there. So you just be sensitive and don't, again, project all sorts of meaning on things that don't have a meaning. Like, oh, they're going to be terrified if I'm not there. How do you know? Maybe it's more relaxing for them. Okay? So you have to be sensitive to the situation. And so all this, it means that we also have to get in touch with our own issues about death. And our own inability to let go of people. How we think of them as concrete entities and won't let go. And, it's much easier for the other people if we are able to let go, and say, you had a wonderful life, we shared so much, I care about you. Take all that love, all your kindness, all your good heart, and go with that into the future life, and share that with whoever you're with in your next life. And send them off in a really beautiful way that's affirming their good qualities. Okay? I think it's also good to have the room as quiet as possible. If somebody's in the hospital, turn off the TV. Yeah? Turn off the TV. Turn off the music, because these kinds of things incite so many emotions. And you can see that because people are falling asleep if the TV's on. They start dreaming about what's going on with the TV. Yeah? And that's very harmful for their minds when they're trying to die. Because there's always this crisis and violence and attachment and everything on the TV. So try and make it as peaceful as possible. Yeah? And, as calm. Don't cry in the room. If somebody's crying, take them out of the room and console them outside the room, not in the room. Okay? You can mentally give somebody a heartfelt hug when they're dying, but as they're dying, don't touch the body. Okay? Let them die without their body being touched. And then just before you have to move the body, then you touch their crown and you tell them to be born in the Pure Land, or you tell them to take a precious human life. There's also sometimes pills that you can get, and you can crush them and give a little bit to the person to ingest if they can, or you crush the pill and then mix it with a little bit of honey or yogurt, and you put it on their crown, and that draws attention there, because hopefully you want the consciousness to leave at the area of the crown. It's kind of auspicious for a good rebirth. So that's also why you touch the crown when somebody's dying. Okay. Okay, sometimes you might have to remind somebody that the family's going to be okay. Everybody else is going to be okay. Or if somebody isn't there, then they happen to be asking about that person, say, that person sends you all their love and they send you a big hug. So just do what's necessary to comfort the person and bring some closure to anything that they don't feel closure about. Okay? I would also strongly recommend, when somebody does not want any more tests, when they don't want any more treatment, don't force them. Again, that's our agenda. We have to know what virus they have, or we have to see if there's one last thing that we can do that is going to suddenly save them when they're clearly dying. Don't do that. It's very intrusive. It's very disturbing for the person who's dying. Okay. What else? Recite, if the person's religious, recite mantras, recite prayers, recite whatever liturgy comes from their own tradition so that they can hear it. Don't do anything that is going to bring up old hurts and make the person distressed. Don't do anything that's going to bring up a lot of attachment and make the person cling. Okay? And then remember that you can't prevent anybody from dying. Yeah, sometimes we feel that I've got to prevent them at all costs. We can't prevent anybody from dying. We have to accept it. Okay? Trust them in their process. And one thing that I didn't say earlier, but before people get to the point where they're actually dying, but much earlier on in the process where they're still quite coherent, if they're talking about financial issues, or they're talking about crises of faith, let them talk about whatever they need to talk about. It may not be your issue, but let them talk about it and help them resolve it. Okay? Because for somebody, they may have a whole issue about what's going to happen to all their possessions and money. For you, it's a non-issue, but for them, they need to go through that and process it to let go of it. Okay? So just whatever their issue is, deal with that. Don't tell somebody, forget that. Yeah. Okay? After death, then, like I said, before you move the body, put the pill, if you have it, you put on at the time they are dying. Then before you move the body, you touch the crown. Try not to move the body if you can, for as long as possible. Different states have different laws about this. Different hospitals have different laws. It's good to prepare in advance. Okay, so if somebody's in the hospital, to talk with the doctor and the medical staff beforehand and get it arranged, or take them home to die if the hospital won't let them be there. Hospitals have to release you if you want to be released, don't they? Yeah. Yeah, I think one of my big fears is being caught in the clutches of the medical profession, and them not, but we got to do one more thing. We're not going to let you go. No, if you don't want to be in the middle of that, then get yourself released, and that you may have to make known beforehand so that your family knows that. Okay, so let the body be natural as much as possible. Sometimes you may see a little bit of blood coming from the nose or a little bit of white fluid coming from the person's genitals. That indicates that the consciousness is left. And after that, you can, do what you need to do with the body. It's good to dedicate for them as, pray for them as they're dying, dedicate your merit, and also after they die, and dedicate for them to have a precious human life or to be born in the Pure Land, to meet perfectly qualified Mahayana teachers and have all the conducive circumstances so that they can practice. Encourage, send them off all your good wishes for them. May you be generous, may you be kind, may you be free of worry, may you be free of fear. All the good wishes you ever had for them, verbalize those, and make the prayer that you have for your loved one your own prayer that's coming from your heart according to your wishes, for them. And express those and, say it out loud. As the person's dying, whether you're in the room or not, after they die, say it silently, say it out loud as you feel good to do. In the first few days after a person's dying, it's very good to really kind of make these dedication prayers and steer their mind, Be born in a place where you can practice the Dharma. Have a kind heart. Don't worry about things, okay? And to express that. And then the Buddhist custom is that on the 7th, 14th, 21st day, every 7 days, the day the person dies is counted as day 1. Okay? So if they die on a Friday, day 7 is a Thursday. Okay? So 7, 14, up to 49 days. On those days, then it's good to do special offerings, special meditations, so that, you create merit and you dedicate for that person. And the reason for that is that they say that if a person is in the intermediate stage, they usually find a body within a week. If they don't, then they have like a little mini death in the intermediate stage, and they take another intermediate stage body. And so at that point, if we're creating merit and dedicating it for them, that could influence their mental state, influence what karma ripens, and so that can be very beneficial for them. And so it's especially good if you are a close friend or relative to do those kinds of prayers and practices for that person. You can also ask, your Dharma friends to do it. You can also ask the Sangha to do it for you. Make offerings on that person's behalf and request a puja. But also remember that you're the person who has the close karmic connection, so you really express your good wishes for them. Yeah?
Are there 7 different bardos?
Different bardos, I don't know. If they take their next rebirth within 6 days of when they die, they're only in the bardo for 6 days and that's it. And then they
have one of the little mini deaths.
Oh yeah, then they're still in the bardo. Yeah, and so if their karma is altered, let's say they were going to take one body beforehand, and then the which karma ripens gets altered at that time, then they would take a bardo resembling the new person that they're going to be reborn as. Yeah. Don't get superstitious about, the people still being around and so on. They are immersed in their experience. Yeah. And people in Singapore, because they really believe in ghosts and everything in Singapore and their dead relatives coming back. And somebody told me this classic story of, she was leaving the house at one point after somebody had died, and she tripped over a bucket and it made some noise. And when she came back, then the family was going, "Oh, so-and-so, Grandpa was here. We heard him. He moved the bucket. And she's saying, no, I tripped over it. No, you don't understand. Grandpa moved the bucket. We know he's still here with us, watching us. And whatever she said, they wouldn't believe. Okay, so just let things be. Yeah, let things be. Yeah, you may feel the person's presence. Just dedicate with them and send them on to their next life with a lot of love. You may not feel the person's presence. It doesn't matter. Okay, still dedicate for them in the same way. Yeah.
Any of this that wouldn't apply to an animal pet?
No, I would do the same for an animal. Yeah, with the pill and touching, touching their crown and being relaxed and not crying and getting hysterical in front of them, and not insisting that they go to the vet, because something that would be terrifying for a poor animal. They have no clue what's happening. You take them to the vet and then they have all these tests and things, put in them, and they're freaked out because of all these new smells and new people and unfamiliar. It's not helpful to them. Okay? Yeah?
Sometimes when people are dying, their minds can become very agitated because they have a regret of something that they've done or not said. For somebody who's already died, do you have some specific advice about how?
Yeah, okay, so somebody has some regret or unfinished business with another person who's already died and now they're dying. Then what I would do is encourage them to write a letter to the other person, to put their to imagine that person and imagine that they're speaking to the best part of that person, and then just write down what they feel, and write it down and express their regret, make their apology, and we can all do that if we have regrets about, something that happened with somebody who's already died, and that can be very healing. And then you imagine, or you write down how they would respond. And remember, you wrote this letter to the best, most forgiving part of them. And so then you think of them responding from that part, and forgiving and accepting and expressing their positive feelings. Okay? Good. So we have to stop now. There's still lots more to say, but hopefully, maybe we'll have time to talk about this topic more. And I just also want to say I think it's quite wonderful that all of you made the effort to come here, and many of you came from far away places like Boise and Seattle. Or what's the town you're from, Sarah?
Clark Fork.
Clark Fork. Oh, that's really, she came from another universe. But it's really nice that everybody made the effort to be able to come. And Mary came also from someplace far, not Wenatchee, someplace?
Heaven, the Methow Valley.
The Methow. Methow Valley, yeah. And Sharon, okay, good, yeah.
Walla Walla.
Yeah? Who's from Walla Walla? Oh, you're from Walla Walla? Okay. Who did we miss?
Coeur d'Alene.
Yeah, a few people from Athol and Spokane. Anybody from Coeur d'Alene? Oh boy, what happened? Deer Park? Yeah. And Missoula, okay.
Dayton.
Aiden? Okay. Yeah, so everybody really made an effort to come, and it's good. It's something that you never forget and you never regret, is making an effort to come to the Dharma. Yeah, that's something you will never regret and always be able to rejoice at. So take advantage of it.